Hi guys, That's On Review Guy here, and today on another episode of Charts in the Past, we look back at the 10 biggest selling singles of the 30th of July 1970. Kicking things off at number 10 is Lady Darbanville by Cat Stevens. Born Stephen Dimitri Giorgio, before converting to Islam in 1977, adopted the name Yusuf Islam, Cat Stevens' career spans a total of 35 years. Releasing 11 studio albums under the name of Cat Stevens, 5 of which charted in the top 10, has 7 top 20 singles under his belt under this name, which include this track, which peaked at number 8. A song that was pretty ahead of its time, definitely unlike anything that was on the radio at the time, marked a transition in Stevens' work. What with the split from his former producer Mike Hurst, Stevens' direction became more focused into folk music. This song in particular was his first to cross over to the US, sold 1 million copies, and was awarded a gold certification in 1971. Inspired by his relationship with his girlfriend at the time, American actress and former model Patty Darbanville, the lyrics are very morbid and quite sad. This was coming at a time when their relationship was reaching its end, what with the pair of them living in different countries at the time and Stevens' desire to maintain a long-term serious relationship. The lyrics portray Patty as a deceased person, but is used metaphorically to describe where the relationship between the two people has inevitably gone. But despite the relationship reaching its end, Stevens maintains that he will always be with her in one way or another. The musical shift is striking and highly noticeable if you've been following Stevens' work throughout his entire career. Prior to this track, Stevens had always used orchestration in his work. This song signalled the first track he released to contain acoustic guitars, opening up with finger-picked notes before going into clean strumming, changing in and out between the two, bass guitar, keyboards that have a very low register, and percussion which included bongos. There's a real Latin feel to this song as well, making this one of the most intriguing and entrancing songs to appear on this list. I don't think there's much here to critique about this song, to be honest. It's a really good song. Definitely give it a listen if you haven't. At number 9 is Art Safe Forever My Love by Jimmy Ruffin. Elder brother of Davy Ruffin of The Temptations, American soul and R&B singer Jimmy Ruffin's career was far more flourishing in the UK than it was in the US. Achieving 6 top 20 singles in the UK, dropping 11 albums between 1967 and 2012, was voted as the world's best singer in a British poll, and worked with a myriad of highly successful artists throughout his career, which included the likes of Robin Gibb, Paul Weller, Heaven 17, Maxine Nightingale, and Brenda Holloway, primarily after his stint with Mowtown ended in 1980. The lyrics are a serenade to Ruffin's love interest that is unsure of how Ruffin feels about her, since her friends are telling her that he doesn't care for her. So here, Ruffin tries to put her mind to ease by telling her to ask him how long he'll need and love her. This seems quite superfluous if you were to ask me, as, well, I don't know if this seems obvious, but Jimmy, mate, she's right there. You can tell her. You don't need to ask her to ask you. But there is this one particular lyric that does really bug me, and it's, if my feelings aren't enough for you, and the words I say can't give you all the proof, just ask me. Hang on. You just said that your words may be not enough for her, but yet you're asking her to ask you how you feel? Is it just me on that one? Other than that, it's an okay song. The music is your traditional big band music, opening up with an upbeat drum piece, timpanis, and a piano that's drowned out by the strings, tambourine, and bass, and additional background vocals. And that's all there is to say. Nothing really special. Next. At number 8 is Up Around the Bend by Creedence Clearwater Revival. Throughout their active years from 1968 to 1973, Creedence Clearwater Revival ended up becoming a staple in the genre of rock music, their material becoming the influence of many bands in the genre of southern rock, grunge, and blues music. Many hold this group up as the innovators of the genre roots rock, a stylistic version of folk, blues, and country music with lyrics that were seen as white-collar, harkening back to the Southern American lifestyle and iconography, occasionally writing songs that were politically motivated as well. The group have sold 26 million albums in the US alone. 3 of their 7 studio albums went into the top 10 here in the UK. They had 6 top 10 singles, only 1 going to number 1, with this track peaking at number 3. Delivered by the lead singer, lyricist and guitarist John Fogerty, the song essentially is a driving song. The lyrics are inviting the listener to join Fogerty and his bandmates to somewhere on the highway and to bring along anyone else for the ride, or to enjoy themselves, meet people, have fun and in general, have a good time. The song's main hook comes from the electric guitar, notable for being a high-pitched riff that's instantly memorable and distinctive, drums and bass line that all congregate together to create what is a really good piece of rock music. Fogerty's vocal delivery has authority and force, and the inclusion of the background vocals from the other bandmates, John's older brother, rhythmic guitarist Tom Fogerty, bassist Sam Cooke and drummer Doug Clifford, work very well together. At number 7 is It's All in the Game by the Four Tops. Originally having been released in 1958 by the song's original performer, American singer-songwriter Tommy Edwards, the song was originally written by songwriter Carl Sigman and former Vice President of the US, Charles Dawes, the only number 1 pop song ever to be co-written by a US Vice President. Many have covered this track, including the Detroit, Michigan-based vocal quartet, the Four Tops, consisting of Levi Stubbs, Abdul Fakir, Ronaldo Benson and Lawrence Payton, whose version peaked at number 5 here in the UK. Still going strong to this day, this group's 60-plus year career has given us 34 albums, 18 top 20 singles, only one of these went to number 1, have been inducted into numerous music halls of fame, including the Rock and Roll, R&B, Grammy and Vocal Group Hall of Fame, and are irrefutably one of the most iconic acts in the world of Mowtown. The lyrics are pretty basic, centering on love and how wonderful it is, and whilst being primarily directed towards all the lovely ladies listening to this song, no matter what trials and tribulations you will inevitably endure in life, you will no doubt rise above it. All will be alright because of love. Because, as the lyrics go, many a tear have to fall, but it's all in the game of love. Aww, how poetic. The instrumentation is decent enough, an ascending and descending bass line throughout, drums, an electric guitar riff which is unfortunately mixed so badly that it finds itself being drowned out by the rest of the instruments, a string orchestration with occasional pizzicato violins and tinkling sound effects, pieced together by the vocals which work very well when harmonising. On his own, lead singer Levi Stubbs' vocals are very rich, powerful and soulful, and the background vocals are just as welcoming. It's decent enough, I guess. At number 6 is Neanderthal Man by Hotlegs. A group that would only last for a year but would go on to become the more commonly known English rock group 10cc after relaunching their career in 1972 once this project hit the skids. Neanderthal Man, Hotlegs' one and only chart-topping song, was by all accounts a pure accident that ended up becoming a smash hit song that peaked at number 2 and sold over 2 million copies. According to the history books, the song itself was created solely for the purpose of testing out multiple drum sounds and new recording equipment. Reading about this group's inception and how this song came about is very interesting and will take up too much time here, so when you get the chance, check out the story. It makes for an interesting and amusing read. Amusing, however, is not the word that I can use to describe this song, primarily because, well, it isn't a song. It barely even resembles one. To say that it doesn't use a conventional song structure is something of an understatement. I can't even think of where to begin. Well, okay, first, the song is built up of 12 words. I'm not even kidding here. I actually counted. The basic premise of the song is that the lead's a Neanderthal man who meets a Neanderthal girl. He wants to make Neanderthal love to her in this Neanderthal world. And this sentiment is repeated 9 times. Again, I counted. It's baffling in how this got as high as it did. Okay, yeah, it was unlike anything on the radio at the time, but so? It's not even that interesting. Never mind the lyrics being non-existent, the music isn't even that interesting at all. It all consists of this thudding drums, acoustic guitar strumming, a synthesizer buzz halfway through, what I think are recorders, and maracas. Plus, the vocal delivery is so washed out and drowned by the music, which is equally as sterile as the performance. Funny how the tagline to the track is, "You didn't like it because you didn't think of it." Nope, I didn't like it because it sucks, and it's lazy. And number 5 is Something by Shirley Bassey. Originally written by former Beatles member member George Harrison and released on their 1969 Abbey Road album. It was released by the group as a double A-side along with Come Together. The song made the top 5 upon release, was regarded by co-members of the Beatles as the best song George ever wrote, and has gone on to become the second most covered Beatles song of all time. With a career spanning over 60 years, Welsh pop singer Shirley Bassey, who has released 12 top 20 studio albums, 14 top 20 singles, 2 of which went to number 1, was one of over 150 artists that have covered this song, peaking at number 4 respectively and spending 22 weeks in the charts. The lyrics, clearly tweaked in order to suit the singer, is about the lead serenading their love interest, highlighting that there's something in the way that they move, how they woo Miss Bassey, smiles, the way that they are styled, and in the things that he shows her. What is this something? We don't know. There's just something. But the question is, will this something be enough for Bassey to stick around and see where this goes? She doesn't know. Well, this was a waste of time, wasn't it? You know, I'm starting to see the problem with this song. It's very non-descriptive. It's rather bland lyrically, there's no real emotion being projected from Bassey, and it just feels like one of those songs that anyone could cover in their sleep. The biggest crime it commits is that it's a rather boring song with nothing tangible to it. The instrumentation is passable, I guess. It's a somber opening starting on a church organ before introducing a bass line, a soft drum piece and string orchestration, later on joined by the brass section. Before approaching this song's climax, the music kicks it up a gear and becomes a more upbeat track. The drums become livelier, a sweet little flute part has come into the mix. Everything feels pleasant. Pretty much in line with the music of the 50s, which was heavily influenced by big orchestral pieces. But that's the thing, it just feels too pleasant and safe, and with what we've had already and what's to come on this list, it's not very exciting, it's nothing special, and it's just okay. At number 4 is In the Summertime by Mungo Jerry. Undoubtedly this group's most well-known and popular track. Mungo Jerry are a pop rock group infusing elements of blues, country, psychedelic rock and folk every now and then into their music. Starting off their career in 1970, this group's 4+ decade career consists of over 20 albums, 6 top 20 singles, 2 of which were number 1 hits, and this was their first. Unsurprisingly, really, since this group is quite unique in and of itself. Fronted by lead singer Ray Dorset, the group is well known for its ever-changing lineup, unconventional style and sound, and when your first taste of the limelight is at the Hollywood Festival in Newcastle upon Lyme, and the UK press talks more about this act that included Black Sabbath and Grateful Dead, that's impressive. A song that was written in 10 minutes on a second-hand Fender Stratocaster whilst taking some time off from work, according to Dorset himself, is one of the original summer anthems, including topics such as nice weather, enjoying a fine drop of alcohol, going out for a drive with the man or woman of your fancy. Kinda bad placing of those words to have drinking before driving, if you ask me. Perhaps to do a spot of fishing or swimming before capping off the day by enjoying a sweet bit of nookie. The instrumentation here is absolutely superb. The hook from the piano is timeless. The bass line, which is similar to the piano hook, is equally as good. The banjo piece from Paul King, who's responsible for that buzzing effect which comes from a jug, is a great addition, and the additional sound effects, which include foot stomps from Dorset, who plays both electric and acoustic guitars in this song, and the constant cabassa throughout, and the motorbike sound effect in the middle that comes out of nowhere but somehow makes this song even more brilliant. Everything just feels so right. You couldn't imagine this song without all of these little details. Not a single drum is found anywhere in this piece, and what with the unconventional song structure, it's a real celebration for the simple things in life and a great carefree, relaxing track that makes you want to embrace life itself. One of the greatest songs ever made. Mungo Jerry, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. At number 3 is Lola by the Kinks. Let's make no bones about this, the Kinks are absolutely fucking incredible. Regardless of what period of time you choose to examine this group's discography, they have been responsible for some of the greatest songs to have ever been written, this being one of them. Probably the best song that this group has ever released conceptually. During their 32 years run as a group, they released 25 studio albums, achieved 23 top 40 singles, 3 of which went to number 1, were responsible for a multitude of songs that ranged drastically in terms of subject, tone and delivery, and are recognised for their contribution to British music via their Ivor Novello Award for Outstanding Service to British Music. The original band members being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the UK Music Hall of Fame. Mired in controversy at the time, to say that this song was a one-of-a-kind track during the decade would be an understatement. The BBC actually banned this song for a while, since the original cut uses the words Coca-Cola in the lyrics, which went against the Beeb's policy against product placement, causing Ray Davies to fly back to London from New York to change the words to Cherry Cola, interrupting the group's American tour at the time. But the real controversy came in the subject matter. You see, for the uninitiated, this Lola person isn't a woman. In fact, Lola, the song being inspired by true events according to Davies himself, is about their manager getting himself involved with a transvestite. Despite many hints throughout the night that the lead singer spends with this lady, he doesn't realise about Lola's true gender until they are about to get down and do the dirty with one another. Irrespective of the subject matter, the song was received very well, and why shouldn't it? It pushed a lyrical boundary with such a taboo subject at the time, and unlike many other songs by the Kinks, the instrumentation is very acoustic heavy, with plucked acoustic guitar strings joined by electric and bass guitar soon after, which provide the riff throughout as well, ending with the band going all out with a cacophonous ending to cap the song off. A terrific song from one of the greatest groups of all time. At number 2 is All Right Now by Free. The signature song from the London-based rock band, which formed in 1968 before breaking up for a second time in 1973, the first being 71. Free are recognised as one of the biggest selling blues rock groups that Britain has ever produced. The group sold over 20 million albums worldwide, have played in over 700 arena and festival concerts, and former members Paul Rodgers and Paul Kossoff, who died at the age of 25, were ranked as one of the greatest vocalists and guitarists of all time, respectively, by Rolling Stone. Despite such accolades, the group's success was very inconsistent. 3 out of their 6 studio albums charted in the top 10, only 6 top 20 singles, one of which was a remix of All Right Now in 1991, and with certain band members suffering from drug-related issues which brought about changes within the group, and Rodgers and bassist and pianist Andy Fraser being at constant odds, the group was pretty much destined to fall apart. Nevertheless, in the short time they spent together, they made some pretty damn good music, and this one being their best by far. The lyrics are about the lead catching the eye of some random woman in the street, turns on the charm to the point where he takes her back to his place to get his Mac on. Okay, the story is kind of a stretch, it's very basic in its plot, quite similar to a lot of songs where guys just want to fuck some random girl, and when it's read off the sheet, it does seem quite creepy. But much like a lot of rock tracks, it's the instrumentation that really brings this song together. A great guitar riff, a bouncy bass line, guitar solo and piano that imitates the riff of the instrumental break. With the inclusion of drums and the ever-present metronome, it's a song that, despite the element of creepiness, it does stand the test of time and holds up to this day, 40 plus years on. Finally, the number 1 song on this day back in 1970 was The Wonder of You by Elvis Presley. Figuring out how to start off this particular segment was a bit of a challenge because, well, where do you start with someone as significant in music as Elvis Presley? The man that many still consider to this day to be the king of rock and roll, a cultural icon and someone who will undoubtedly still be referenced in 100 years' time. Well, how about we start with the facts? 10 number 1 albums here in the UK, 21 number 1 singles, 3 of which were reissues, 34 top 20 singles, appeared in 33 featured films, served as a sergeant in the US military, a global sex symbol, reinvented a music genre that at the time was, for the main part, considered a black man genre of music. The list is just endless. Here, The Wonder of You, which was recorded in front of a live audience, one of very few of Elvis's songs to be recorded recorded live, was Elvis's 16th #1 single, where it stayed for 6 weeks. The song wasn't even an original from Elvis. It was in fact originally written by Thomas Baker Knight, frontman of the group Baker Knight and the Nightmares. This song went through numerous people before Elvis made it a #1 hit, from the original being released by Ray Peterson in 1959 to Ronnie Hilton's version, which peaked at number 22, eventually making its way into Elvis's hands, where, as I mentioned before, went to #1. The song is pretty sparse, being just 20 lines long. It's a song where Elvis serenades his love and can't believe his luck that despite all of his faults and admitting that he doesn't quite understand why, his lady still loves him unconditionally. It's incredibly simple, yet it's to the point, emotionally charged and incredibly beautiful. The instrumentation is much more upbeat than the original Peterson recording. The background vocalists don't have as much prominence here, but I feel that it gives this song a much more personal sentiment, and the ending crescendo is masterfully executed. I will remain on the fence, however, as to which version is the best, because honestly, they are both brilliant, and I don't want to piss off anyone who stumbles across this video. I'll just let you guys decide. And that's it. Those were the top 10 biggest selling singles of the 30th of July 1970. What do you guys think of the songs? Do you like these songs? Do you hate them? Do you agree with my opinions? Disagree with them? However you feel, leave your comments in the comment section below. I welcome all of your opinions. And until next time, I'm That Song Review Guy, and take care.